Tense silence. Shared walls. My gorgeous roommate, Leo, looks at me like I'm a mistake. So why, when danger finds me, is he the one who steps in the way? His touch contradicts every hateful word. This is the story of how his protection became an obsession, and his obsession became my addiction. Episode 1. He's with me. Look, I knew moving in with a stranger was a risk, but the housing market in this city is a special kind of nightmare, and Leo's ad for a roommate was the only one in my budget that didn't also feature visible mold or a demand for my astrological chart. The photo was just a blurry shot of the living room, clean, minimalist, impersonal. Perfect, I'd thought. I was wrong, so catastrophically wrong. Leo isn't a person, he's a storm cloud in human form, perpetually hovering in my periphery, raining disapproval on everything I do. It's been 3 weeks, and I'm convinced his facial muscles only know 2 settings: neutral disdain and active contempt. It starts with the coffee. The entire block can hear your blender at 7 a.m., he'd stated on day 2, not looking up from his tablet. It's a sonic assault. My morning smoothie ritual, my one joy. Then it's my music. Eclectic, he'd called it, leaning against my doorframe as I played some indie folk, a polite word for tragic. And the dishwasher. Oh, the dishwasher. He'd actually reloaded it behind me once, his shoulder brushing mine, the scent of his stupid, expensive cedar soap washing over me as he silently, efficiently rearranged every plate and bowl. "There's a system," was all he said, his voice a low rumble that did something infuriating to my stomach. Try to learn it. So yeah, my roommate hates me. It's a cold, hard fact of my new life, as certain as the leaky faucet in my bathroom. I navigate our shared space like a mouse, trying to be invisible, which is why tonight is such a rebellion. My best friend Chloe staged an intervention. "You're turning into a hermit who jumps at the sound of a man sighing," she declared. "We're going out. You're wearing the red dress. End of discussion." So here I am, in a crowded, pulsing bar called The Grotto, in a dress that feels too bright, trying to remember how to be a person who exists outside of Leo's critical gaze. The music is loud, the lights are low, and for an hour, it works. I laugh with Chloe, I sip a cocktail that tastes like candy, and I feel loose, unclenched. Then comes Mark, a friend of a friend with a slick smile and eyes that linger just a beat too long. He's charming at first, buying around, telling funny stories, but when Chloe gets dragged to the dance floor by another friend, his attention turns, sharpens. He crowds into my space at the bar, his hand landing on my forearm. It's not a caress, it's a claim. "So you're all alone here?" he says, his breath smelling of gin and mint. "No, I'm with my friends," I say, trying to slide off my stool. His grip tightens. "They look busy. I'll keep you company. You're too pretty to be sitting here by yourself." The charm has evaporated, leaving something sticky and coercive. I try to pull my arm back, but his fingers are like a vice. My heart starts a frantic tap dance against my ribs. The noise of the bar, which felt freeing moments ago, now feels like a wall, trapping me. I glance desperately towards the dance floor, but I can't see Chloe. "I need to go find my friend," I say, my voice firmer than I feel. "In a minute," he smirks, leaning in. "Finish your drink with me first. Don't be rude." Panic, cold and slick, begins to rise in my throat. This is how it happens in those cautionary tales. This is the moment you realize you're not as safe as you thought. I'm about to yank my arm away and cause a scene, ready to embarrass myself just to get free, when the air around me changes. It's not a sound first, it's a feeling, a shift in atmospheric pressure like before a thunderstorm. Then a familiar, low voice cuts through the din, laced with a venom I've only ever heard directed at my loading techniques. I believe he said he needs to go. I swear the temperature drops 10 degrees. Mark's head whips around, and I follow his gaze. Leo, he's here. in this chaotic, neon-lit bar looking completely absurdly out of place. He's not dressed for a night out. He's in his usual dark jeans and a simple black Henley, the sleeves pushed up his forearms. He looks like he just walked out of our stark, minimalist apartment and into a cave. And he's furious. Not shouting, not red-faced. His fury is a quiet, terrifying thing. It's in the hard line of his jaw, the icy gleam in his eyes, the way he stands, utterly still and poised, like a predator who's already won. "Who the hell are you?" Mark blusters, but his grip on my arm slackens. Leo doesn't even acknowledge him. His eyes, those storm-gray eyes that usually roll at my presence, are locked on me. He takes 2 deliberate steps forward, and the crowd seems to part for him. Without breaking my gaze, he reaches out. His hand doesn't shove Mark away. It's more deliberate than that. His arm slides around my waist, his palm settling firmly against the small of my back, right where the red fabric dips. The touch is electric, possessive, and so utterly contradictory to every single interaction we've ever had that my brain short-circuits. He pulls me gently, firmly from Mark's grasp and into his side. I fit there against the solid wall of him, and a traitorous sense of safety floods me, instantly drowning the panic. His cedar and clean linen scent envelops me, a familiar anchor in the chaos. Then, and only then, does Leo turn his head to look at Mark. His voice is a soft, dangerous rumble, meant only for our little triangle of tension, yet it carries an undeniable weight. He's with me. 3 words, that's all, but they're delivered with a finality that brooks no argument. They're not a suggestion, they're a law of the universe, declared by this infuriating, confusing man. Mark pales, his bravado evaporating. He mutters something, throws his hands up, and melts back into the crowd, defeated. Suddenly, it's just us. The music thumps, people laugh and shout, but in this little bubble, there is only silence and the shock of his hand still burning through my dress. I tilt my head up to look at him. The protective fury is still there, but now it's mingled with something else, a rawness, a crack in his perfect, hateful armor. "Leo, what are you doing here?" I whisper. His jaw tightens. For a second, I see it, a flash of something that looks almost like vulnerability. Then it's gone, shuttered behind his usual mask of annoyance. He removes his hand from my back as if my skin had burned him, taking a half step back. "She texted me the name of the bar," he says, his voice back to its usual flat, unimpressed tone. He won't meet my eyes now. "She said you'd rebelled. I was in the area. You looked like you were about to make a scene that would be embarrassing for both of us. Our lease agreement doesn't cover public disturbances." The spell is broken. The cheesy, romantic hero moment crashes into the reality of Leo, my terrible roommate. He wasn't protecting me. He was protecting his precious peace and quiet, his systemic, complaint-free life. But as I stand there, my skin still humming where he touched me, my heart a confused drum solo in my chest, I can't forget the look in his eyes when he first saw Mark's hand on me. That wasn't about a lease. That was something else, something primal. He shoves his hands in his pockets, finally glancing at me with a familiar, exasperated sigh. "Are you ready to go? This place smells like regret and cheap beer." I just nod, speechless. He turns and starts walking toward the exit, not looking back, expecting me to follow. And I do, because what else is there to do? I follow my hateful, confusing roommate out of the bar, the ghost of his touch on my back, the echo of his voice, "He's with me," playing on a loop in my mind. The man who criticizes my existence just claimed it in front of a crowd. He saved me, then insulted me in the same breath. And as I climb into the passenger seat of his stupidly clean car, the question wraps around my heart and squeezes, ensuring I won't sleep tonight. If he can't stand me, why did he look at me like that?
Episode 2. The Bleach and the Sweater.
The silence in the car last night was a physical thing, thick,
charged, like the air after a lightning strike. Leo drove with one hand on the wheel, his profile a sharp, unreadable cutout against the passing streetlights. I stared out my window, the ghost of his hand on my back competing with the memory of his scoff about the bar's smell. He'd saved me. He'd insulted me. My brain was a tangled skein of confusion. We got home. He went straight to his room without a word. I stood in the middle of our immaculate, soulless living room, still in my red dress, feeling utterly displaced. I half expected him to emerge and critique my choice of midnight snack. He didn't. This morning, the war is back on, a cold domestic ceasefire broken. It starts in the laundry room, a tiny alcove off the kitchen that has somehow become our no-man's land. I'm loading the washer, carefully separating my darks and lights, painfully aware of the system. I'm humming, a nervous habit. It's a song from yesterday, before everything went weird. Leo appears in the doorway, holding a nearly empty bottle of bleach. He doesn't speak, just watches me for a beat, his eyes flicking from my sorting to my face. There's a simmering tension in him, left over from last night, looking for an outlet. "That shirt," he says, finally, his voice gravelly with mourning. He nods toward my favorite vintage band tee, the one with the slightly faded graphic of a sunrise. It's soft, it's comforting. It's an eyesore. The color is a crime against fabric. I clutch it to my chest, stung. It's vintage. It's supposed to be faded. It's supposed to be retired, he mutters, and then he's moving. He reaches for a supposedly empty laundry pod cup on the shelf above the machine, but his elbow catches the bleach bottle in his other hand. It happens in slow motion. The bottle tips. A sluice of clear chemical liquid arcs through the air. I gasp, jumping back, but it's too late. It splashes across the front of my treasured shirt, a stark, spreading Rorschach blot of destruction. The sharp, acrid smell fills the tiny room. I stare at the ruin. The fabric is already changing, bleaching from a soft lavender gray to a sickly, blotchy white. A hole in my heart opens up. This shirt was from my mom, before she got sick. "Oh," Leo says. Just that. No "I'm sorry," no "oh my God, are you okay?" Just a flat, observational "oh," like he's commenting on a cloud passing the sun. Tears, hot and sudden, prickle behind my eyes, but I will not cry in front of him. I swallow hard, the lump in my throat feeling like a stone. Was that part of the system too? My voice is trembling. Destroy anything that offends your aesthetic? He has the decency to look briefly uncomfortable, a muscle twitching in his jaw, but he just sets the bleach bottle down with a definitive click. "Accidents happen," he states, his tone implying I'm the one making a scene over spilled milk or, fabric-ruining poison. Consider it an intervention. That thing was a rag. He turns and walks out, leaving me standing in the toxic-smelling silence, clutching my ruined past to my chest. I spend the day in a funk. The incident feels malicious, even if it was technically an accident. The casual cruelty of his comment, the way he just left, it confirms everything. Last night at the bar was an anomaly, a blip. This, the disdain, the destruction, is our reality. I avoid the common areas, ordering delivery and eating at my desk. I hear him moving around the apartment, the quiet click of his keyboard, the low murmur of a business call. His normal, uninterrupted life. The shirt is in my trash can, a ball of sadness I can't bear to look at. By evening, the sadness has curdled into a quiet, simmering anger. I stomp out to the kitchen to make tea, a declaration of my right to exist in my own home. He's on the sofa, reading something on his tablet. He doesn't look up. Fine. Perfect. I make my tea loudly. I slam a cupboard door. He doesn't flinch. Giving up, I retreat back to my room. I flop onto my bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the bleach arc, the cold O, the warmth of his hand from the night before. The contradiction is maddening. That's when I see it. Folded neatly, almost reverently at the foot of my bed. A sweater. It wasn't there an hour ago. I sit up slowly, as if it might be a trick. I reach for it. The fabric is unbelievably soft. A rich, heathered lavender, not the faded gray of my old shirt, but the exact perfect shade of a twilight sky I once said was my favorite color. I'd mentioned it offhand weeks ago, looking out our kitchen window. That's the color of peace, I'd sighed. He'd snorted and said the sky was polluted. I pull the sweater to my face. It's cashmere. It smells of nothing, like newness, like an apology made of clouds. There's no note, no tag, just this impossibly beautiful, impossibly thoughtful, impossibly expensive gesture, left in the silent, secret way a cat leaves a dead bird on the doorstep. My heart does a slow, painful somersault. I clutch the sweater, my anger dissolving into utter bewilderment. He ruined my shirt, called it an eyesore. Then he replaced it with something 100 times more precious, in the exact color of my soul. Why? I stand up, the sweater held against me, and move to my door. I can see a strip of light from the living room under it. I can hear the faint sound of his tablet being set down. The need for answers is a physical pull. I have to know. Is this guilt? Is it some bizarre, toxic form of care? Or is the man who claims to find me intolerable actually paying attention? I yank my bedroom door open and step out into the hallway. He's still on the sofa, now just staring at the blank wall as if he can sense me coming. Leo. He turns his head. His eyes find the sweater in my arms, and for a fraction of a second, something unguarded and terribly soft flashes in his gaze. Then it's gone, locked away behind a wall of practiced indifference. What? He asks, his tone carefully bored. I hold up the sweater. What is this? He looks at it, then back at my face, one eyebrow slightly raised. It appears to be a garment. They're typically used for warmth. You bought this for me. I have no idea what you're talking about, he says, turning back to face the wall, a clear dismissal. But I see it. The faintest pink tinge on the tips of his ears. A tell. He's lying. The cheesy, overwhelming realization hits me. This isn't just coexisting with a grouch. It's a game, a push and pull, an insult wrapped in a gift. He burns my world down with one hand and rebuilds it with the other, leaving me forever off balance, forever looking for him in the ashes and the new foundations. I don't press him. I just stand there, holding the soft purple evidence of his contradiction, the protector from the bar, the destroyer in the laundry room, the secret gift-giver in the shadows. I thank you, I whisper, not even sure if he can hear me. He doesn't respond, but his shoulders, usually held in a rigid line, seem to relax just a millimeter. I go back into my room and close the door. I pull the cashmere sweater over my head. It fits perfectly, like it was made for me, like he knew. I sink onto my bed, wrapped in the scentless, luxurious proof that nothing about Leo is what it seems. The walls he's built aren't just to keep me out, they're to keep something else in. And after tonight, I'm not just curious anymore. I'm determined to find out what it is.
Episode 3. The Boyfriend in the Machine. The cashmere sweater is a secret I wear against my skin. For 3 days, it's my armor. I wear it around the apartment over my pajamas, savoring the silent, luxurious rebellion of it. Leo hasn't mentioned it again. Our routine has snapped back into its tense, predictable groove. His criticism of my cooking smells, my too loud laughter at a podcast, the way I let the mail pile up on the console table. But the sweater is there, a physical reminder that the lines between us are blurring in the most confusing way. The piece, fragile as it is, shatters on a Tuesday morning. It comes in the form of my phone, blowing up with a frantic series of pings from Chloe. Chloe, babe, are you seeing this? Chloe, Logan, that absolute worm. Chloe, call me, now. A cold knot forms in my stomach. Logan, my ex, The one who ended things 6 months ago with a breathtakingly casual text about needing space, which turned out to be code for needing to hook up with his yoga instructor. The breakup was messy, humiliating, and I'd hoped it was the last chapter. With trembling fingers, I open my social media app. I don't even have to search. It's right there. A post shared by mutual friends gaining traction with horrified comments and furious fire emojis. It's a long, dramatic thread from Logan's account. A cautionary tale, he calls it. He paints me as obsessive, unstable. He claims I couldn't let go, that I'd shown up at his gym and his workplace. He writes about false accusations and the emotional toll of dealing with someone so manipulative. He doesn't use my name, but everyone knows. The hints are crystal clear, and a few of his frat bro friends have already commented with, "Bro, I'm so sorry you went through that," and "Some people are just crazy." The world tilts. The air in my pristine, silent apartment turns to syrup. I can't breathe. This is worse than the bleach. This is a poison meant for my character, my reputation, my sanity. Tears of sheer, hot injustice blur my screen. I feel exposed, flayed open for public consumption. I stumble out of my room, phone clutched in my hand, my vision swimming. Leo is in the kitchen, grinding coffee beans. The normal, domestic sound feels like a sick joke. He takes one look at my face and the grinder stops. His eyes, always so sharp, scan me in an instant. The tears, the tremor in my hands, the phone held like a live wire. What? It's not a question. It's a demand. I can't form words. I just thrust the phone toward him, the toxic post glowing on the screen. He takes it, his fingers brushing mine, a spark of contact in my numb state. He reads. His expression doesn't change at first. Then slowly a storm begins to gather. His jaw tightens, a muscle feathering in his temple. His eyes, scanning the text, turn from gray to glacial steel. He reads every word, every horrible, lying comment. When he finally looks up, his gaze is terrifying. It's not directed at me. It's directed at the universe that allowed this to happen, at Logan, wherever he is. "Sit down," he says, his voice low and controlled. It's not a suggestion. I sink onto a stool at the kitchen island, wrapping my arms around me, the cashmere feeling thin. I watch, frozen, as Leo sets my phone down carefully. He pulls out his own phone, then his laptop from his bag. He sets up at the island across from me, his movements precise, focused. He doesn't say, "It'll be okay." He doesn't offer empty comfort. He just starts to work. For the next hour, I sit in a state of suspended animation. The only sounds are the furious, rapid tapping of his keyboard and the occasional low, disgusted exhale from his nose. He's a silhouette against the morning light, a warrior in a Henley, fighting a battle in a realm I don't understand. He types commands into black boxes filled with green text. He opens tabs with intimidating headers. He works with a cold, relentless efficiency. Once, his eyes flick up to me. "What's his full name, date of birth?" I whisper the information, feeling like I'm handing him a weapon. He just nods and returns to the screen. I cry, quietly, helplessly. The tears drip onto the marble countertop. He doesn't tell me to stop. He doesn't acknowledge them. He just keeps working, a silent, furious guardian angel hunched over his keyboard. Eventually, the fight drains out of me, leaving only a hollow ache. I mumble something about a shower and flee to the bathroom, needing to scrub the feeling of filth from my skin. The hot water does nothing. I'm just a raw nerve in a cloud of steam. When I emerge, wrapped in a towel, the apartment is quiet. Leo is gone. His laptop is closed. My phone is on the counter where he left it. The quiet feels heavier now, oppressive. The damage is done. The words are out there. I pick up my phone, my heart a lead weight, bracing myself to see the post shared 100 more times. I open the app. I blink. I refresh.
It's gone. Not just Logan's post, his entire account, gone, vanished. A user not found error in its place. I search for him frantically. Nothing. It's as if he was digitally erased. My breath hitches. I check other platforms. The shares, the comments from his friends, vanishing, one by one, like footprints being washed away by a silent incoming tide. Within minutes, there's no trace. The digital smear campaign has been utterly, surgically deleted. Leo did this. The man who complains about my shower schedule just performed a midnight hack on my behalf. The protector from the bar has become an avenger in the machine. The rest of the day passes in a strange liminal space. He comes home late from work. I'm curled on the sofa, under a blanket, staring at a mindless baking show. He walks in, hangs up his coat, and goes to the kitchen. He doesn't look at me. But he makes 2 mugs of tea. Not coffee. Tea. The way I like it. He sets one down on the coffee table beside me, the gentle clink the only sound in the room. He doesn't say a word. He just picks up his own mug and walks toward his room. I can't take the silence anymore. The gratitude and confusion are a torrent inside me. Leo. He stops, his back to me, but he doesn't turn. Thank you, I say, my voice thick. He's silent for so long I think he's just going to keep walking. Then he speaks to the empty hallway, his voice a low, gravelly rumble that sends a shiver straight through the blanket and into my bones. He won't bother you again. And he disappears into his room, closing the door with a soft, definitive click. I'm left alone with my tea, my blanket, and the earth-shattering truth. Leo doesn't just protect me from physical threats in bars or from laundry room accidents. He protects me from the shadows, from the monsters that live in the deep, deep. He fights battles in silent, invisible arenas and leaves no trace but my restored peace. He's building a fortress around me, stone by silent stone, while insisting he can't stand the sight of me inside it. As I sip the tea he made, warmth spreading through my cold hands, I realize the hook is no longer just in my curiosity. It's deep in my heart. He is the mystery, the protector, the grumpy, beautiful contradiction, and I am officially, hopelessly, dangerously hooked on solving him. Episode 4. The Fever and the Fluff. The fortress Leo built around me after the Logan incident held for a week of brittle normalcy. He'd grumble about the temperature I kept the thermostat at. I'd pointedly ignore his suggested grocery list on the fridge. The cashmere sweater stayed in constant rotation, a secret flag of our Cold War truce. But my body, it seemed, didn't get the memo about the ceasefire. It hit me on a Thursday. 1 minute I was fine, arguing with him in my head about the proper way to stack Tupperware. The next, a wave of chills so violent it rattled my teeth. My bones ached. My head pounded like a bass drum in a tiny, angry club. The common cold had declared war, and my immune system was losing spectacularly. I stumbled from my desk to the sofa, dragging my blanket like a fallen banner. I was a pathetic, sniffling heap by the time Leo got home from work. He took one look at me, flushed, glassy-eyed, wrapped in a cocoon of misery, and his face did that thing, the storm cloud gathering. But this time, the thunder was directed at me, my illness, the very concept of germs. "You're sick," he stated, as if diagnosing a plumbing leak. "Genius," I croaked, my voice sandpapery. He sighed, a long-suffering, world-weary sound. "Great, just great." He dropped his bag and began a meticulous decontamination ritual at the door. Shoes off, jacket hung, hands sanitized. "I have a critical project deadline. I cannot be incapacitated by your pathogens."
"You're sick," he stated, as if diagnosing a plumbing leak. "Genius," I croaked, my voice sandpapery. He sighed, a long-suffering, world-weary sound. "Great, just great." He dropped his bag and began a meticulous decontamination ritual by the door. Shoes off, jacket hung, hands sanitized. "I have a critical project deadline. I cannot afford to be incapacitated by your pathogens. My deepest apologies for the inconvenience. I rasped, a fresh wave of shivers making my words tremble. Thus began Leo's campaign of complaints. It was epic in its scope and specificity. My tissues were a biohazard. He brought me a small, lidded stainless steel trash can, placing it beside the sofa with a grimace. "Contain the contagion, please." The smell of my lemon honey tea was cloying. He'd walk through the living room, wave his hand in front of his face, and mutter about sickly sweet swamps. My coughing was, and I quote, unnecessarily dramatic. He'd pause his typing every time I had a fit, leveling me with a profound irritation. Must it sound so productive? I was too weak to fight back, too feverish to do anything but exist miserably in his pristine space, feeling like a human-shaped virus. He worked at the dining table, his back mostly to me, the steady tap of his keyboard a soundtrack to my delirium. But then, the other campaign began, the silent one. Around hour 2 of my sofa-bound exile, a mug appeared on the side table. Not my chipped favorite one, a clean white ceramic mug. Steaming ginger tea with a precise drizzle of honey and a slice of lemon floating on top. He must have gone out and bought the lemons. We didn't have any. He didn't say a word, just set it down and walked away. An hour later, during a particularly pathetic shivering spell, a weighted blanket, one I didn't even know we owned, was draped over me. It was warm, as if it had been in the dryer. He tucked it around my shoulders with swift, efficient motions, his fingers never actually touching me. "You're disrupting the air with your shaking," was his only comment. When I fell into a feverish doze, I'd wake to find the trash can emptied, the used tissues gone, a fresh box placed beside it, a glass of cold water with a bendy straw, a straw waiting. The pinnacle of absurdity came as the evening sun faded. My head was pounding, my thoughts an incoherent, fevered jumble. I must have been muttering aloud, a stream of consciousness ramble about my childhood cat, the plot of the baking show I wasn't really watching, and the tragic injustice of being out of chocolate. Leo's typing stopped. I heard his chair push back. Footsteps. He came around and stood over me, a dark silhouette against the lamplight. He was holding his tablet. "What are you doing?" I mumbled, my eyes struggling to focus. "Your rambling is even more grating than your coughing. It's a chore to listen to, so I'm going to read it, properly, from the beginning, so I can at least follow the nonsensical plot." Before I could process this, he sat in the armchair perpendicular to the sofa. Not close, but not across the room. He cleared his throat. Mr. Whiskers did not, in fact, have whiskers. It was a tragic misnomer. He was a sphinx cat, a naked, judgmental peach. He hated me, too. He was reading back my own fever-addled words in his cool, clear baritone voice, turning my delirious murmurings into a solemn narration. He read about the cat. He read my critique of the baker's soggy bottom. He read my lament for the chocolate. He read it all, not with mockery, but with a strange, focused seriousness, as if it were a sacred text. And something inside my fever-broken heart cracked open. Tears, hot and silent, spilled from the corners of my eyes, tracing paths down my temples into my hair. Not tears of sickness, but of a profound, disorienting tenderness. This man, who found my very existence in irritation, was orchestrating my care with military precision and performing the bedtime story from my delirium. He saw the tears. He stopped reading. For a long moment, he just looked at me, his expression unreadable in the dim light. The mask of annoyance seemed to flicker, to thin. He set the tablet down. Slowly, he reached out, not for my hand, but his fingers brushed against my forehead, pushing back sweat-damped hair. His touch was shockingly cool, unbearably gentle. "You're burning up," he murmured, more to himself than to me. Then his hand slid down, his palm cupping my cheek, his thumb brushing away a tear. The gesture was so intimate, so starkly at odds with everything he'd ever said, that I stopped breathing. "Just be quiet and get better," he whispered, his voice rough. "Your pathetic noises are distracting."
He pulled his hand back as if my skin had scalded him. He stood up abruptly, retrieved the mug of now cool tea, and walked to the kitchen. I heard the microwave start. He returned with the reheated tea, placed it in my hands, and, without another word, retreated to his room, closing the door. I lay there, in the silent, dark living room, the ghost of his thumb on my cheek, the taste of ginger on my tongue, the weight of the blanket he'd warmed anchoring me to the earth. The contradiction was no longer confusing, it was crystalline. His insults were the cover, his actions were the truth. Every grumble, every complaint was just a poorly constructed roof over a shelter he was building for me, piece by sacred piece. He was tending to me in the only language he seemed to know, the language of gruff, undeniable, life-altering care. And as my fever finally broke in the deep of that night, one clear, cheesy, irresistible thought rose from the ruins of my sickness. I needed to hear him sound like when he wasn't complaining, when the words matched the touch. I needed to hear him say something real. And I had a terrifying, thrilling feeling that my chance was coming.
Episode 5. Because You're Mine. The fever broke, but the world didn't snap back into focus. It stayed soft, hazy, charged. Leo's thumbprints on my cheek was a brand. A week passed, and the air between us was no longer filled with just tension, but with a heavy, shimmering potential, a held breath. We moved around each other like two planets whose orbits had shifted, pulled into a new, inevitable gravity. He stopped complaining. The silence was louder than any insult. I found myself wearing the cashmere sweater less, needing less armor. Instead, I'd catch him watching me as I read on the sofa, his gray eyes tracking the turn of a page, the shift of my leg. No sigh followed, just observation. Hunger, thinly veiled. The hook was no longer in my heart, it was in my bloodstream. It all came to a head on a crisp, ordinary Tuesday evening. I was walking back from the corner market, a canvas bag with wine and pasta swinging at my side. My mind was replaying, for the 1,000th time, the feel of his palm on my forehead. I didn't hear the footsteps until they were right behind me. A man, broad-shouldered, fell into step beside me on our quiet, tree-lined street. "Hey, sweetheart, you live around here?" The voice was all wrong, slick, invasive. I sped up, my pulse kicking. "I'm fine, thanks." He matched my pace. "Just being friendly, that's a heavy bag." His hand shot out, fingers closing around my bare forearm, right above my wrist. His grip was firm, insistent, pulling me to a stop. "Let me help you." Panic, cold and familiar, licked up my spine, but this time it was immediately followed by a white-hot surge of something else. Not just fear, anger, a primal certainty that this was a violation not just of me, but of something that belonged to him. I yanked my arm. "Let go, now!" He laughed, a low, unpleasant sound. "Feisty, I like—" The sentence died in his throat. Because Leo was there. He didn't run. He seemed to materialize from the gathering dusk itself, a solid wall of lethal intent. He was on the man in 2 strides. His hand wasn't a fist, it was a weapon. He shoved him, one flat palm to the chest, a move so brutally efficient it sent the man stumbling back into the brick garden wall with a sickening thud. Leo stepped between us, his back to me, blocking me completely. I could see the rage radiating from the rigid line of his shoulders, the way his hands were curled at his sides, not in fists, but in terrifying readiness. His voice, when it came, was low, icy. It was the voice from the bar, but stripped of all pretense, all restraint. It was pure, dark promise. "If you ever touch him again," Leo said, each word a shard of glass, "if you ever even look in his direction, I will dismantle your life piece by piece. Now get out of my sight." The man, wheezing, his bravado utterly shattered, scrambled to his feet and took off down the street without a backward glance. And then
It was just us, on the quiet sidewalk under a pale moon. The adrenaline was a roar in my ears. I was shaking, but not from fear, from the aftershock of his violence, from the sheer possessive fury he had wielded for me. He didn't turn around immediately. He stood there, his back to me, his breaths deep and controlled, as if reining in a beast. I could see the tension coiled in every muscle. Slowly, so slowly, he turned. The look on his face shattered me. The icy protector was gone. In his place was a man utterly unraveled. His eyes were wild, dark with a fear that had nothing to do with the stranger. It was the fear of almost losing something. His jaw was clenched so tight I thought it might break. He closed the distance between us in 2 steps. His hands came up, but they didn't grab. They framed my face, his touch startlingly gentle against the violence of moments before. His thumbs stroked over my cheekbones, his gaze searching mine, desperate, raw. "Did he hurt you?" The words were a ragged whisper. I could only shake my head, my lips parted, breathing his air. The relief that washed over his features was profound. His forehead dropped to mine, a broken, intimate gesture. We stood there, breathing together in the twilight, his thumbs still caressing my skin. "Why?" The question finally tore from my throat, barely a sound. "Leo, why do you do this? You can't stand me. You hate my mess, my noise, my everything. So why?" He went still. He pulled back just enough to look into my eyes. The last of his walls crumbled. All the disdain, the annoyance, the gruff care, it all fell away, revealing the terrifying, beautiful truth beneath. His gaze dropped to my lips, then back to my eyes, blazing with a possessive fire that stole the breath from my lungs. "Because," he said, his voice a low, sensual rumble that vibrated straight through my core.
He leaned in, his lips a hair's breadth from mine. His scent, cedar and clean linen and Leo, enveloped me. "You're mine to protect." And then his mouth was on mine. It wasn't gentle. It was a claiming, a confession, a release of every stifled word, every guarded touch, every moment of fierce, hidden care. His lips moved against mine with a desperate, hungry certainty, one hand sliding from my face to tangle in the hair at the nape of my neck, the other arm wrapping around my waist, pulling me flush against the hard, unyielding length of him. I melted into him, my bag dropping to the pavement, my hands coming up to clutch at his shoulders. The kiss deepened, turning searing, deep, and endlessly sweet. It was the answer to every question, the payoff to every moment of aching tension. It tasted of inevitability, of rightness, of a home I didn't know I was searching for. When we finally broke apart, gasping for air, our foreheads still touching, the world had changed. The street, the city, the very air, it was all just background noise to the universe that now consisted of him and me. A slow, real, devastating smile touched his lips, a smile I had never seen before. It was mine, only mine. "And just so we're perfectly clear," he murmured, his voice thick with promise, his nose brushing against mine, "I have never, for a single second, hated you. I have been utterly, completely, infuriatingly obsessed with you since the day you walked in humming that terrible song." He kissed me again, softer this time, a seal on the truth. The protector, the grump, the secret keeper, he was mine. And as his hand found mine, fingers intertwining as he led me the last few steps home, I knew the story wasn't ending. It was just beginning. The end. For now. Epilogue. 6 months later, the complaints have officially retired. The only system now is the way his arms lock around me each morning, a muttered "mine" against my hair. My vintage band tees live happily beside his crisp button-downs. He still watches me, but now his gaze ends with a slow, possessive smile that makes my knees weak. The fortress he built wasn't to keep me out, but to be our sanctuary. And the man who once hated my noise, he whispers his love for me in the dark. proving some stories are cheesy, sensual, and perfectly forever true. And that's the story of how a grumpy man's fortress of complaints became the walls of our forever. If this story of sharp words and secret protection made your heart race, please follow, rate, and review wherever you listen. It truly helps new listeners find their next obsession. Now we have to ask you, what was your favorite cheesy moment? Was it the bar, the sweater, or the kiss on the street? Let us know in the comments. Until next time, remember, sometimes the one who seems to hate you the most is just fighting to love you the hardest.